People are not drawn to what they fully understand. They are drawn to what they cannot quite grasp. If we are brutally honest, obsession is not built on love, kindness, or even beauty. It is built on tension, on the push and pull between desire and uncertainty. The mind does not become addicted to what it already owns. It becomes addicted to what it fears it might lose, what it cannot predict, and what it struggles to fully decode. This is why some people leave an unforgettable mark on us, while others, no matter how good or kind, fade quickly from memory. Psychologists know that the brain is wired to chase unfinished patterns. Just like a song that stops before the final note, or a story that ends on a cliffhanger, we cannot rest until we resolve it. This same principle governs human attachment. If someone leaves us guessing, questioning, and waiting, they occupy more mental space than the person who gives us everything up front. Machiavelli understood this truth centuries ago. He believed influence came not from being liked, but from controlling how others felt in your presence and absence. Modern research in behavioral psychology agrees. Intermittent rewards, selective attention, and controlled distance create a cycle of craving that can turn admiration into fixation. The dark reality is simple. If you want someone obsessed with you, you must learn to master uncertainty, scarcity, and emotional timing. The following strategies are not about kindness or fairness. They are about power, and power always comes at a cost. Let's dive in and explore. Number 1. Obsession begins where predictability ends. People never become obsessed with what they can fully predict. The human mind is designed to tune out what feels ordinary and safe. Think about the way we stop noticing the ticking of a clock or the background noise of traffic. Once something becomes predictable, it fades into mental silence. Relationships work the same way. If you are too consistent, too available, and too easy to understand, people's brains begin to treat you like background noise. What triggers obsession is unpredictability. The uncertainty forces the brain to stay alert. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. It is the same principle that makes slot machines addictive. The gambler does not know when the win will come, so every pull of the lever becomes thrilling. If the machine paid out every single time, no one would play. Likewise, if someone knows exactly how you will respond and when, you give them no mental tension, and without tension, there is no grip. Philosophers from Heraclitus to Machiavelli understood this hidden truth. Power is not in the obvious. Power rests in surprise, in breaking patterns, in becoming the person who cannot be placed in a neat little box. When you interrupt predictability, people begin to think about you when you are not there, because the brain hates unfinished puzzles. Imagine a friend who texts you the same way every day. After a while, you stop caring. Now imagine a friend who sometimes disappears, then shows up with an intense story or thoughtful insight. That friend lives in your head far longer. They do not fade into the background. To make someone obsessed with you, you must avoid becoming routine. Keep a part of yourself hidden. Change the rhythm of your responses. Introduce unexpected depth into conversations. Create situations where people cannot easily map out your next move. This unpredictability keeps their attention alive, and when attention stays alive long enough, it transforms into obsession. Number 2. The mind chases what it cannot fully possess. One of the deepest truths about human psychology is that desire feeds on limitation. We are far less interested in what we already hold securely than in what is just out of reach. This is not romantic speculation. It is rooted in the way the brain processes reward. Dopamine, the chemical that drives motivation, does not spike when we achieve something. It spikes in the pursuit of it. In other words, the wanting is more powerful than the having. When someone is fully available, transparent, and predictable, the brain no longer has to chase. There is no suspense, no pursuit, and no imagination required. But when there is something slightly withheld, when there is a gap between what is offered and what is desired, the mind cannot let go. It keeps turning the person over like a puzzle piece that does not quite fit. This gap is the birthplace of obsession. Machiavelli, who studied the mechanics of power, would argue that complete possession kills fascination. Leaders, lovers, and friends who reveal everything lose their grip quickly. But those who allow others to taste only a portion of their essence, And then retreat, spark curiosity that never rests. The imagination fills in the missing pieces, and often those imagined qualities are far grander than the truth. Think of a relationship where one partner constantly overshares, always available, always explaining. At first it feels comforting, but soon it becomes suffocating. There is no mystery left, no mental tension. Now compare this with the person who gives glimpses of themselves, then withdraws. You find yourself thinking about them when they are not around, wondering what they are doing, replaying the last interaction in your head. That is the architecture of obsession. The paradox is this: if you want someone to chase you, you must never allow them to feel they have completely caught you. Offer closeness, then pull back. Reveal one layer, then cover the rest. Give them enough to feel hooked, but never enough to feel finished. Possession brings comfort, but limitation fuels desire. Obsession belongs to the one who is always just beyond reach. Number 3. Emotional rhythm is key. Human beings do not become addicted to stability. They become addicted to fluctuations. This is why people spend hours gambling or scrolling social media feeds. It is not because every experience is rewarding, but because the rewards appear unpredictably. The brain's dopamine system fires hardest not when we know what is coming, but when we cannot be sure. That uncertainty keeps us hooked. When applied to human relationships, this creates a dangerous truth. Constant affection and constant attention may make someone comfortable, but it will never make them obsessed. Comfort is pleasant, but it is not addictive. Addiction comes from rhythm, from alternating highs and lows, from the sudden presence of warmth followed by the sting of absence. Machiavelli would argue that this rhythm is a form of power. If you can control when another person feels valued and when they feel neglected, you can control the pace of their emotions. You do not give them steady ground to stand on. Instead, you make them work for balance, and in that struggle, they become tied to you. Picture this scenario. One day, you give someone your full attention, engaging with their stories, making them feel seen. The next day, you pull back slightly, responding with shorter words, slower replies, or an air of distraction. That change forces them to wonder if they did something wrong, if your interest is fading, or if they need to try harder. Their energy becomes invested in regaining your attention, and without realizing it, they enter a cycle of pursuit. This is the rhythm that creates obsession. Too much coldness breaks the bond. Too much warmth kills the tension. But the balance between the two keeps someone mentally restless, always hoping for the next high, always fearing the next low. The psychological principle here is known as variable reinforcement. Just like a gambler keeps pulling the lever in hope of the next win, a person exposed to emotional rhythm keeps returning, waiting for the next rush of attention. It is not the size of the reward that matters, it is the unpredictability of when it comes. To make someone obsessed, you must master this art of rhythm. Be generous, then be scarce. Be attentive, then distant. Give enough to keep them hungry, but never enough to satisfy them fully. The rhythm itself becomes the addiction, and you become the source of it. Number 4. Power lies in being slightly out of reach. What people value most is rarely what lies in abundance. The human mind instinctively attaches greater worth to what feels scarce, distant, or just beyond reach. This is not only an economic truth, but a psychological one. Scarcity heightens desire. When something is rare, it feels like a prize. When something is too available, it feels disposable. In relationships, the same principle applies. If you are always available, always easy to access, always responding the moment someone calls, you unintentionally lower your perceived value. People may enjoy you, but they will never become obsessed with you. Obsession demands a sense of privilege. It demands the feeling that your presence is not automatic, that it must be earned, and that it could be lost. Machiavelli understood that rulers who gave themselves too freely were taken for granted. Authority, respect, and even love grew stronger when there was a measure of distance. By remaining slightly removed, they created an aura of importance. That aura did not come from arrogance, but from the simple truth that rarity produces fascination. Think about how you treat your possessions. A cheap pen can be left anywhere without care, but a rare watch or piece of jewelry is treated with caution. admired repeatedly, and guarded closely. The difference is not in the function, but in the perceived scarcity. People treat other people in the same way. Consider this scenario. Imagine two colleagues. One is always around, eager to help, instantly accessible. The other is helpful but not always available, sometimes elusive and sometimes hard to pin down. Which one is spoken about more when absent? Which one has their time valued more when they do show up? It is almost always the one slightly out of reach. Psychologists call this the scarcity effect. We're wired to place more mental and emotional weight on what seems harder to obtain. Scarcity sharpens focus while abundance dulls it. The less someone can guarantee access to you, the more their mind clings to you. If you want someone obsessed with you, never allow your presence to feel like a common commodity. Let them feel lucky when they get your time. Let them wonder if they will see you again. The moment they begin to believe you are not guaranteed, they begin to see you as indispensable. An obsession thrives not on comfort, but on the fear of losing something rare. Number 5. Control their perception of time. One of the most overlooked forms of power is the ability to shape how others experience time in relation to you. When someone feels that you are always available on demand, the value of your presence collapses. But when you make them wait, when you create anticipation, you stretch time in their mind. That anticipation becomes a silent chain pulling them closer. Psychologists studying anticipation have found that waiting for something can be more emotionally intense than receiving it. The dopamine system is not only triggered by rewards, but by the expectation of rewards. This is why people obsessively check their phones after sending a message, or why the countdown to an event can feel more exciting than the event itself. The waiting magnifies the emotional impact. Machiavelli understood this through power dynamics. A ruler who appeared rarely created a sense of importance. An audience would travel miles and wait hours just to see a glimpse of them. And that glimpse felt sacred because it was not routine. By controlling access, rulers controlled value. The same principle applies in personal relationships. Imagine two people you know. One always answers the phone immediately, always ready to meet, always on time. The other occasionally delays replies, cancels plans, or arrives unpredictably, but still delivers a powerful presence when they finally show up. The second person lingers in your thoughts more. Their absence becomes louder than the other person's constant presence. There is also a psychological effect called temporal scarcity. When something feels rare in time, we become more desperate to secure it. This is why deadlines motivate action, and why limited time offers drive sales. If you make your presence feel like a rare event, people will chase it with more intensity. To use this, you must resist the urge to satisfy every request for your attention. Make others wait sometimes. Allow anticipation to build. Deliver moments of presence that feel unforgettable, but then withdraw before they become ordinary. When people look forward to your time, they start organizing their own lives around it. That is the beginning of obsession. The key is not cruelty, but mastery. You are not withholding to punish. You are shaping time so that your presence feels like a privilege. When someone sees your attention as rare, every moment with you expands in meaning. And once time itself bends around you, so will their thoughts. Number 6. People are addicted to curiosity. Curiosity is not a small human trait. It is one of the strongest psychological forces shaping our behavior. The brain cannot stand unfinished business. When presented with a puzzle, a mystery, or an incomplete story, it loops until it finds resolution. This is called the Zeigarnik effect, discovered by psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, who observed that people remember interrupted tasks more vividly than completed ones. When something is unresolved, it lingers. Now apply this to human interaction. If you are an open book, if you explain every thought, share every detail, and answer every question, you close the loop too quickly. The brain relaxes and moves on, but if you withhold, contradict yourself slightly, or present a version of yourself that cannot be fully pinned down, you leave an open loop in someone's mind. That loop keeps pulling their thoughts back to you. Machiavelli knew that people are not fascinated by clarity. They are fascinated by contradiction. A leader who appears kind but also ruthless keeps followers guessing. A person who shows deep warmth one moment and cool detachment the next becomes unforgettable because the mystery never resolves. Consider this example. Imagine a coworker who always tells you every detail of their life. After a while, you lose interest because there is nothing left to discover. Now imagine another coworker who sometimes drops a strange comment, avoids answering certain questions, or speaks about something in fragments without elaboration. You find yourself thinking about them later, wondering what they meant, filling the silence with your own imagination. They become far more memorable because they left you curious. The addictive part is that curiosity activates the same reward circuits as desire. The pursuit of knowledge feels like the pursuit of pleasure. People who make us curious trap us in that pursuit. Even if they do nothing more, their image loops in our minds as we search for missing pieces. To make someone obsessed with you, you must learn to cultivate mystery. Do not explain everything. Do not always answer questions directly. Share parts of yourself selectively. Contradict expectations from time to time. Give just enough to intrigue, but never enough to fully complete the puzzle. Obsession grows not from clarity, but from curiosity. The person who leaves others guessing never leaves their minds. Number 7. Never reveal your true motives. People are not obsessed with transparency. They are obsessed with mystery. When your motives are clear and your actions are fully explained, others may feel comfortable, but they will never feel captivated. Comfort relaxes the mind. Obsession unsettles it. The secret to influence lies in keeping people slightly unsure of where you truly stand and what you truly want. Psychologists know that uncertainty is one of the strongest drivers of attention. Studies on attraction show that people are often more drawn to someone when they are unsure of how that person feels about them. The ambiguity creates tension, and tension fuels emotional investment. If someone knows exactly how you feel, their curiosity dies. If they are unsure, they begin to analyze every word, every silence, every gesture in search of meaning. Machiavelli argued that rulers should never reveal their entire intentions, because transparency hands power to others. Once people know your strategy, they can anticipate you, control you, or dismiss you. But when your motives are veiled, you force others to remain alert, cautious, and intrigued. They lean closer, trying to read between the lines. This constant analysis keeps you in their thoughts long after you have left the room. Picture this scenario. Imagine a colleague who makes it clear that they want a promotion. Their ambition is obvious, and while you may respect it, you are not intrigued. Now imagine another colleague whose actions suggest ambition, but whose words are modest, whose gestures hint at plans, but never confirm them. You cannot quite tell what they are after. You watch them more closely, think about them more, and discuss them with others. Their ambiguity captures more of your attention than the first person's clarity ever could. The danger of always showing your hand is that people stop imagining, and once imagination stops, so does obsession. To keep someone hooked, you must allow their mind to do the work, withhold certain truths. Let your behavior contain contradictions, never fully confirm or deny. Give enough to spark speculation, but not enough to close the story. Obsession thrives in uncertainty. People do not crave what they fully understand, they crave what they are still trying to figure out. When your motives remain elusive, you do not just live in their memory. You live in their imagination, and imagination is a far more powerful prison than reality. Number 8. Every person secretly craves submission to a stronger will. On the surface, people insist that they value independence and autonomy. They speak of freedom as the highest goal. But beneath that surface lies a less comfortable truth. Most people secretly long for someone stronger than themselves to set the direction, to carry the burden of decision, and to provide the certainty they cannot sustain on their own. This is not weakness. It is part of human psychology. Psychologists studying authority and influence have shown repeatedly that people often prefer to follow rather than lead. The famous Milgram experiment revealed how ordinary individuals would obey authority figures even when it meant harming others, simply because authority gave them relief from the weight of personal responsibility. Obedience reduces anxiety because it removes the pressure of choice. Machiavelli understood this instinct long before psychology put it into experiments. He observed that people are more loyal to leaders who project unshakable confidence than to those who constantly seek approval. A strong will creates gravity. Others orbit around it because certainty is magnetic in a world filled with doubt. Think of two friends. One always hesitates, second-guesses themselves, and seeks validation before acting. The other moves with conviction, makes decisions quickly, and speaks as if their words carry weight. Which one do you think people follow? Which one do you think others remember and talk about when they are absent? The second friend becomes the anchor. Even if their choices are not perfect, their confidence creates stability for others. This is the root of obsession. People become consumed by those who make them feel guided, who appear to see further, who relieve them of the endless spinning of indecision. Submission, when disguised as admiration, becomes intoxicating. The follower begins to tie their sense of direction to the will of the stronger person. Without even realizing it, they crave the clarity that presence brings. To create obsession, you must project strength without arrogance. Believe your own words. Walk into rooms as if you belong there. Do not explain every decision. The less you waver, the more others attach to you. People may never admit this truth, but the mind is drawn to certainty. And when you become the source of certainty in a world built on chaos, you become more than admired. You become necessary. And necessity is the foundation of obsession. Number 9. Mirror their desires back to them. People rarely fall in love with another person as they truly are. More often, they fall in love with the version of themselves they see reflected back. Human beings are naturally self-focused, and when someone seems to embody or affirm their hidden desires, it feels intoxicating. This is not romance, it is psychology. The concept is rooted in what psychologists call the self-verification theory. People seek relationships that confirm their beliefs about themselves. If someone sees themselves as intelligent, they are drawn to those who treat them as intelligent. If they see themselves as special or misunderstood, they are drawn to those who reflect that uniqueness back to them. The mirror creates attachment because it validates identity. Machiavelli would note that this is not about being genuine, but about being strategic. If you can identify what another person secretly wants to believe about themselves and then reflect it back in subtle ways, you gain enormous influence over their emotions. You do not need to be extraordinary. You need to make them feel extraordinary in your presence. That experience alone becomes addictive. Imagine someone who always wanted to be seen as a leader but feels overlooked in their daily life. If you treat them as if their opinions carry weight, if you respond to their ideas with respect and admiration, they will feel a rush every time they are with you. You did not change their life circumstances, but you altered how they see themselves in your company. That shift can make them crave your presence like a drug. This is why mirroring is so powerful. It bypasses logic and speaks directly to the ego. You are not simply another person in their world. You become the person who unlocks a deeper version of themselves. That bond is stronger than beauty, wealth, or status, because it is tied to identity. To create obsession, study carefully what someone values about themselves or what they secretly wishes others would notice. Then, reflect that back subtly. Never in an obvious or exaggerated way, but through tone, attention, and small acknowledgments. When they feel more themselves around you than they do anywhere else, they will not want to let go. The truth is simple. People are not obsessed with you. They are obsessed with how they feel about themselves when they are with you. If you master the art of being their mirror, you will master their mind. Number 10. Use selective vulnerability. Power does not come from being untouchable. In fact, someone who appears flawless or distant often fails to inspire obsession because perfection feels unreachable and cold. People need to feel a thread of humanity to connect deeply. But here's the secret. The connection must be carefully controlled. Too much vulnerability creates weakness. Selective vulnerability creates intimacy without losing power. Psychologists explain that vulnerability increases trust and closeness. When you reveal something personal, the other person's brain responds with empathy and attachment. However, studies also show that excessive vulnerability leads to diminished respect. If you reveal too much, especially if it seems unbalanced or desperate, people lose fascination. What captures attention is the delicate mix of strength with rare glimpses of weakness. Machiavelli would have understood this paradox. He wrote that a ruler must appear relatable at times but never lose command. The same applies in relationships. If you reveal a small flaw, a hidden fear, or a subtle insecurity at the right moment, you invite someone closer. They feel trusted, chosen, and uniquely connected to you. But if you reveal too much, you hand over control. The art is in timing and proportion. Imagine a confident leader who speaks with authority, but in a private conversation admits that they sometimes doubt whether they will live up to expectations. That moment of truth makes them human and endearing. But because it is rare and carefully shared, it strengthens their aura rather than weakening it. The vulnerability feels like a privilege to witness. Now compare this with someone who constantly shares their struggles and fears. At first it might spark sympathy, but eventually it drains attention. Obsession does not grow in pity, it grows in fascination. Selective vulnerability works because it deepens intimacy while preserving mystery. You let someone feel they have touched a hidden layer of you, a part not everyone gets to see. This makes them feel special, almost chosen. And that sense of being chosen is one of the most addictive feelings a person can experience. The lesson is simple. Never shield yourself completely, but never expose yourself recklessly. Share carefully. Let them see just enough of your humanity to bond with you, while keeping your strength intact. It is the balance between guardedness and rare openness that draws people in and keeps them circling around you. Number 11. People become obsessed when they feel chosen. One of the deepest cravings in the human mind is the desire to feel special. Most people walk through life feeling unnoticed, ordinary, and replaceable. So when someone gives them the impression that they stand out above the rest, that they are not just another face in the crowd, it triggers a powerful emotional reaction. This is the beginning of obsession. Psychologists call this the need for uniqueness. Research shows that people consistently value experiences that affirm their individuality. When someone feels uniquely seen or valued, the brain ties strong emotions to that interaction. The memory becomes sharper, and the desire to repeat the feeling becomes urgent. Machiavelli would argue that rulers who made their followers feel chosen created stronger loyalty than those who treated everyone equally. Exclusivity breeds attachment. If your attention feels rare, people will fight to protect it. If it feels universal, people take it for granted. Consider a simple scenario. Imagine two teachers. One treats every student exactly the same, polite but impersonal. The other occasionally singles out a student with praise, eye contact, or a subtle gesture that implies they are capable of something greater than the rest. That student will never forget it. They will replay it in their head, cling to it, and strive to earn more of it. The same principle applies in every relationship. Obsession is not built by showering attention on everyone. It is built by giving selective attention in a way that feels like a rare gift. When you make someone believe that they have access to a version of you that no one else can reach, they attach themselves to that privilege. This is why you must avoid being overly generous with your energy. If you are warm with everyone, your warmth feels cheap. But if you are selective, if you create the impression that someone earned a place others cannot access, they will guard it with intensity. They will think of you when you are absent, not because of what you did, but because of how you made them feel in contrast to the rest. The truth is simple but uncomfortable. People crave to be chosen because most of their lives they do not feel that way. If you can give someone the illusion of exclusivity, you will not only capture their attention, you will capture their mind. And once their mind believes you singled them out, obsession begins. Number 12. Never give them emotional certainty. The human brain craves certainty, yet it becomes addicted to uncertainty. When someone knows exactly where they stand with you, the emotional tension fades. Comfort sets in, and comfort rarely leads to obsession. But when a person feels unsure of your true feelings, when they cannot quite read your intentions, their mind becomes restless. They replay interactions, analyze your words, and invent meanings that may not even exist. That restlessness binds them to you. Psychologists have long studied this phenomenon. In experiments on attraction, people consistently reported greater interest in those whose feelings toward them were unclear. The uncertainty triggered stronger emotional highs and lows, making the experience more intense. This is the same principle that keeps people hooked on unpredictable text messages, delayed responses, or ambiguous behavior. The brain treats the uncertainty like an unresolved puzzle, and puzzles demand attention. Machiavelli saw this dynamic in politics. He advised leaders never to reveal their true position fully, because clarity reduces leverage. When people are left guessing, they remain cautious, engaged, and dependent. In relationships, the same logic applies. Full disclosure weakens fascination, ambiguity sharpens it. Picture two romantic partners. One constantly reassures, always explaining feelings, always available. The other expresses affection at times, but pulls back at others, leaving subtle contradictions in words and behavior. The first creates stability. The second creates obsession. Why? Because the second partner forces the mind into motion, chasing answers that never come. This does not mean cruelty or manipulation. It means mastering the art of leaving space between certainty and doubt. Give warmth, but not always. Offer reassurance, but occasionally withdraw it. Keep enough ambiguity that the person remains unsure whether they have secured you completely. That gap will keep their mind tied to you. The paradox is that certainty brings peace but kills desire. Uncertainty creates tension, and tension fuels emotional addiction. When someone never fully knows how you feel, they begin to revolve around you, constantly seeking confirmation, constantly hoping for clarity. That search becomes the cage they willingly step into. To make someone obsessed, you must resist the temptation to always soothe and reassure. Allow the unanswered questions to remain unanswered. When you give them everything, they move on. When you leave them guessing, they stay. Finally, in the end, obsession is not built on charm alone. It is built on control of the human mind. People are not drawn to you simply because of who you are, but because of how you make them feel about themselves in relation to you. Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology confirmed it. The mind is not rational. It is emotional, status-hungry, and constantly searching for meaning in uncertainty. Whoever can master those levers does not just attract attention, they command it. The strategies we explored are not tricks, they are reflections of human weakness. People crave to be chosen because they live most of their lives overlooked. They chase what is uncertain because certainty kills desire. They cling tighter when you withdraw because scarcity inflames value. They are fascinated by selective vulnerability because it gives them the illusion of intimacy without ever stripping away mystery. Each principle works because it speaks to something primitive, something wired into the architecture of the brain. To make anyone obsessed with you is not about beauty, wealth, or constant approval. It is about creating an emotional ecosystem where you are both the source of reward and the source of tension. You become the puzzle they cannot solve, the privilege they fear losing, the figure who makes them feel elevated one moment and uncertain the next. That combination is addictive. But here lies the darker truth. These strategies work because human beings are not free. They are bound by desires they do not fully understand, by insecurities they cannot control, and by psychological biases that push them to chase what destabilizes them. If you learn to master those forces, you do not simply win attention, you bend the mind. And once the mind bends, the heart follows. The ultimate Machiavellian insight is this: obsession is not love, it is power. And whoever controls the conditions for obsession controls the person entirely. Thank you for watching.